Hi there, so today I am going to make a quick paper pieced birthday card, and what I'm going to start out doing is stamping our balloons. I'm actually going to use a nice navy colored ink instead of your traditional black. Because it's a little ink pad, it's just easier for me to kind of daub it onto the stamp here. And I'm just going to stamp it on our white piece. I'm going to let that dry for just a second, and I have two small scrap pieces, this red polka dot and this colorful plaid, and for these all I really need is the top of the balloon, so I'm just going to ink that part, and I'm going to stamp it on both the red piece as well as this plaid piece. And the next thing that you would do would be to cut these out. However, I did already do that, so you didn't have to watch me cut them out. I'm going to just do this center balloon from the red piece, and actually the whole group of balloons from the plaid. Just set those aside. And with these plaid balloons, one thing I want to do to add a little bit of depth is take my Copic. This is Cool Gray number 1, C1. It's the lightest gray that I have. And I'm just going to lightly trace along the side here where the shadow would be under this middle balloon. I'm going to do it on both sides. It's a very subtle look. You could do it with a slightly darker marker if you wanted to, depending on the color of the paper that you're going to use. I am using Memento inks. This one here is the Paris Dusk, and so these aren't actually going to bleed or smear when I use them with the markers. That would be one thing you would want to check before you actually do this. And then I am going to take a little dab of adhesive to the back of this. And I'm going to stick it on the balloons. You can just kind of match it up here. When I cut these out, I should say, is I try to do my scissors kind of halfway between, so you don't want any of the extra piece showing, but you don't want to go in too far because then you might actually see your white cardstock underneath. So just going to line this up and stick that down. Then I took this golden yellow Y17 and I'm just going to trace along the strings of the balloon just real light. And this is totally optional. You can skip it if you don't have a color that matches your cardstock. And then I'm going to go back with the C1, the light gray, and just kind of trace around the balloons. And it's just going to give you a subtle shadow, so it almost is going to look like the whole piece is lifted off the page. I like to go half on the white and half on a pattern paper if possible. So that's done, and I'm just going to set that aside for now and set the little extra balloon aside as well. Here I have a piece of light orange cardstock. I'm actually going to round two corners with my paper rounder. And then I'm going to take my Tuxedo black ink and a little stamp that says Celebrate, and I'm just going to stamp this along the bottom. There we go. And now I'm going to come back with our balloons, and I'm actually going to use a little bit of this paper tray ink, Chai Distressing ink. I'm just going to go around both this white sheet, just real soft. And the orange piece as well. And that just gives a little bit of distressing without it being over the top. And now I'm going to glue my balloons down to my orange piece. And then I have a piece of blue cardstock that's going to be my base. And then this is more of the plaid and the polka dot. And what I've done is just added an accent strip, and I've inked all of the edges again with the Chai ink pad, and I've gone along the edges here with my sewing machine, and it's actually also a navy ink, so that navy, or I'm sorry, a navy thread, which is going to pull in with our navy ink. And again, I'm going to take this piece and adhere it down to my cardstock base, and you can see here this is actually the layer that I sewed, and it's a little bit easier on my machine to just go through this thinner cardstock than it would be to do the cardstock on top of your thicker piece. And you're also saving a little paper too if you were to mess up on this, and you could just toss it without having to use up another sheet. So I'm going to liberally apply the glue on this one just because of the sewing. And before I stick that down, I am going to run just a little bit of the ink. And you're probably wondering why this is not actually a card. I just like to make the card fronts out of my cardstock, and then I take just cheaper white cardstock to make the card base out of, and I glue this on to that so that I'm saving a little bit of money. And there is my special helper. Let's see if we can get him out of the way here. Now I'm going to go ahead and take that piece that I've sewn and just glue that onto my card base. And now I have my Celebrate, and I'm also going to put some adhesive on the back. And you're probably wondering what happened to that little balloon, and the reason that I have not actually adhered it yet is because we're going to attach that with a little bit of dimensional adhesive, and it's easier to put it on last. So again, here's my little red balloon, and I have some Pop Dot squares. I'll probably use about 3 of them. If I'm sending it in the mail, I like to add a couple extra just because they might get a little bit smushed. And then you just peel the backing off. And last one here. Just going to center this over the middle balloon. And there you have it, a very simple and easy paper paste card. And this is actually one that you can mass produce because you're only actually cutting out just a little bit of the balloons. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.